Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Party Mansion. Once again, just two white guys talking about fantasy football. We were prepared to have a third one on, but due to tech difficulties, we'll have to wait and postpone that next week. Where next week, Tyler Holliday, the money team, will be our guest. So, on to this week. We'll start off with the highest point getter, and that'd be Wildcard Bitches with 122 points, beating up on Fat Mac.
Well, first of all, thanks for assuming my race. But second of all, as far as JJ's team goes, Josh Allen led the way again, 35 points. Josh Jacobs was the recipient of Devontae Adams. Excellent acting job before he assaulted that guy in the tunnel. I hope he doesn't get suspended or anything. I don't think he will. And Austin Eckler, really frustrating me as a whatever the hell the Chargers quarterback's name is. Um, Justin Herbert.
I was like, is he being funny? I can't tell.
No, I actually forgot it because he
Uh,
sucks so
I
bad.
do
He's
that so much.
disappointing me so much.
I do that
And
so much.
Austin Eckler finally had had 2 big weeks in a row with 30 points. Switching over to Fat Mac, Jalen Hurts did what he does and had about 1,000 QB sneaks. Justin Jefferson doing what he does, and George Kittle doing what he does with 2.7 points. Do you have anything in particular you were looking at this matchup? I think Josh is a team with DeAndre. I can't remember anybody's name today. DeAndre Swift. I think it's just going to be a matter of his team getting healthy a little bit. So I'm not too concerned for him long term. It stinks in the short term. And JJ just continues his streak of being a tough out and high scoring every single week. So do you have anything else on this particular matchup?
JJ's playoff bound no matter what. I mean, he's got a loaded roster. It's really, really cool to be able to see TJ Hawkinson go from 30 points to 0.6 in a week. Josh Jacobs and Austin Eckler finally stepped up and did really, really well. And he's just got a very thick bench. I mean, he's got a running back on his bench who scored, 17.5, Ramondre Stevenson. You have Jacoby Myers who did just as well with 17.1. And when Jahan Dotson gets back, he's going to be very, very steady. And then he's got Tua, who is arguably one of the better fantasy football quarterbacks around. So, I mean, it's really interesting to see. You have
If he plays in the next 2 months.
Okay, that's true. That's true. That's true. But before
A nice sentimental keep on the bench. I appreciate a nice sentimental bench keep.
yeah, yeah.
I am guilty of that myself.
But I mean, yeah, JJ's gonna be fine on that. And then I am worried about Josh on this. It's a 3-game skid. He's got a good opponent this week with you. You have an awful week with Derrick Henry and Devontae Adams. You're two best
Now
players.
remember, I'm getting ass blasted by Wes this week.
Oh, it's Wes, not Josh.
Yeah,
Oh, for some reason.
you said that last time too, which is
Yeah,
hilarious.
no, I thought it was Wes for some reason. With that being the case, anyways, but yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting to see how he keeps doing. Jamar Chase has not done what he normally, or what at least what he did last year. Justin Jefferson is still on pace to do exactly what he's doing. Like you said, Hurts is just killing it. And Michael Pittman, his number one overall pick right there. Still not quite there. The numbers aren't quite there. The Colts had that weird, weird game with Denver that was just horrible to watch. And of course, I watched every bit of it. Just very, very odd. But no, I mean, it'll be interesting to see where this goes afterwards, especially with Fat Mac. While I think JJ can probably close in on the division, it'll be close between him and Jack. But and speaking of Jack, let's hop right onto that. So Boy Soul versus the Gang Plays Fantasy. Jack still hit with that 100 points, but I love to see that Clyde Edwards-Helaire finally slowed down because every single season he does this shit where he has the first 4 games, they look great, he's doing wonderful, and then all of a sudden it's just like he's like, yeah, I'm checked out, I'm good. Like that's all I was here for, just the first 4. And Pollard did really, really well. Of course, he was parked on the bench, and I was very surprised to see that Jack let go of Hunter Renfrow. I just feel like that's somebody you kind of is a good flex person if you're in a tough situation. But out of everybody on his bench, I was very surprised to see that he let go of all people like Hunter Renfrow. But maybe he just didn't think he was going to get the targets with Devontae Adams. I don't know. What do you think about that?
I probably, as much as I've been talking about how much I love him, ooh, no, maybe I wouldn't drop Logan Thomas. I don't understand the Tyler Conklin start, but tight end's a cesspool anyway.
Yeah,
Um, Justin Tucker is the best kicker of all time,
yeah,
and
I'll argue that.
Jeff Wilson. Let's see how many he's either probably going to throw up 20 points or he's going to break his legs. I don't know. I keep saying he's going to break his legs. I feel like a jerk by saying that. And Leonard Fournette, man, playoff Lenny,
Playoff.
even though it's week 6.
Yeah, and Jeremy.
Thomas, he still has Chuba Hubbard on his bench, and I think we should start mentioning that every week until he changes it.
He was projected point
And
0.6, and he still has him on the bench.
yeah, the only game action I've seen from Chuba Hubbard all season was when he returned a kick and fumbled, and then didn't play the rest of the game.
Yeah,
And Kyle Pitts is the most disappointing player in fantasy.
yeah. I mean, absolutely, he's done awful. Besides Najee Harris being, probably the most disappointing. But I mean, Juju has not done much. It hasn't been any different really. I feel like from Pittsburgh to Kansas City. I mean, he's still kind of like he could have a touchdown, but more than likely he's not. He's just going to be around 30, 40, 50 yards maybe. I mean, he's still not going to be really much of anything. DJ Chark has just been hurt this entire year. Josh Reynolds has done great, but for whatever reason, he can't start him. I would not start Robert Woods ever, just because I'm sorry, but like I don't believe in the Titans passing game, and I think that's such a weird start. Um, I just think it's very odd. Jerry Judy's not getting any love right now either. Cam Akers, his number one pick, has just not performed like how the projection was. Um, it's definitely going to be a rough season for Thomas. I don't see it getting too much better. He is up against me this week, and as we know, anything can happen. But it's a tough road ahead. Josh, though, I'm going to be or Jack, I should say. I'm sorry. I'm going to be curious about the longevity with this because there's some players that, we talked about before. They're kind of stop starters. Like you kind of put them in and like they do well for a game, but then you replace them and try to shake it up. But I don't really see. I'm curious about this matchup or curious.
I think his starts are going to be entirely dependent on matchup. I think George Pickens, as the season goes on, I'm pretty sure he showed a lot of chemistry with Kenny Pickett early in the preseason. So I think George Pickens, with all of his sick catches, is going to make a big impact moving forward. And Thomas drop Chuba Hubbard, just drop him.
Yeah, like why is he there? And,
I think it's Chuba.
Juba. And then Chuck.
Also, I didn't watch that dumbass Broncos Colts game. I turned that shit off after the third
I
drive.
watched all of it because
Just
I was like, what's going to happen? How's this going to shake out? Is this really going to be this awful? And it was. Jumping up to the money team up against the Team Philly Special. This was probably one of our bigger 4-1 versus 4. Actually, it was 3-1 versus 4-0. Now both teams are 4-1. Finally, the last undefeated team has been knocked off, and he really, I mean, it was a good week for him to lose in a way, just because only 72 points. A lot of your big guys just did not perform. Lamar Jackson didn't do his normal numbers. Miles Sanders didn't. AJ Brown didn't. Christian Kirk.
totally forgot about AJ Brown. Christian Kirk maybe reverting to his memeable
Yeah,
form. And how about the newcomer, the guy that we couldn't get to, the guy who unfortunately his internet connection was a little unstable tonight, comes into the league and knocks off the undefeated team. He's tied for the lead after 5 weeks, starting Geno Smith at quarterback, and his first round pick isn't even on his
his,
team. What the hell is going on here? This guy is insane, and he's taking the league by
his
storm.
first and second picks aren't even on there. So his first,
Who is his
Aaron
second pick?
Rodgers, he dropped him.
Oh my gosh. And also because it's Aaron Rodgers. I know he hasn't been a very good fantasy player, but it's just hilarious to
Yeah,
think
his third round pick was
that
Raheem Mostert, which I remember at the time I was kind of like, eh. But that's one of so far right now it's his better guys. Brandon Ayuk was his fourth round pick, and then going to his fifth round pick was Chris Olave, which is great. And then of course he had Jarrett McKinnon, which is still on his bench. And after that it was Pat Fryermuth, who still is a reliable tight end. And they had Jalen Tolbert after that, which is interesting. And Sonny Mitchell, Derek Carr, late round, which he still has, who you love. Just love.
yeah, I love Derek Carr. He's a really good guy, and he's really good at choosing who to throw to most of the
Oh,
time.
yeah. I mean, like, there's no one better, really. I mean, maybe Hunter Renfro. Oh, wait. But yeah, I mean, going back to it, though, and Tyler's had a little bit of unluck with Antonio Gibson. He has now a second stringer, which I'm curious to see still how the workload, the snap count goes with that. But still, I mean, he's got a good team. There's some good stuff here. There's some good he's very flexible with a lot of players. And on top of that, it just seems like, he picked up Geno Smith. He started him right in. 24 points right off the bat. Geno's just had a hell of a year.
He looked really good. He looked really good
Yeah,
this
I mean,
week.
he's looked really good all season, and it's really interesting to see. He's actually the sixth ranked QB in fantasy football right now. So I hope that all the best luck to him. He's had such a weird career with everything, and that's really cool to see. Saquon Barkley is back in action, just like he was his rookie season, where he is just absolutely just high points, doing great. It's really cool to see because between Saquon Barkley and Nick Chubb, back their rookie season, it was kind of like them back and forth for like the rookie of the year, and now it's them two for like the rushing yards, rushing touchdowns. It's really really cool to see that. So just make sure that everything goes full circle with that. But yeah, this was another blowout win, and then let's go to something that's a little bit closer. We're gonna go to one of the Lewis brothers' massive comebacks with Pepe Silvia's picks up against Team Suicide Pack. So going into this, it was, I believe, 54. Yeah, Lewis had William had 54 points and Wes had 73, and it was like, okay, for this to pull out a win for William, he was going to need Darren Waller to just shit the bed, and then he was going to need Patrick Mahomes to like put up like 20, 30 points. And that's exactly what happened. Darren Waller got hurt immediately. Patrick Mahomes put up 30 points, 4 touchdowns to Travis Kelce, which we'll talk about later. And I mean, stunning surprise here. I mean, it was a great comeback. It's funny because West last week was losing, and then 49ers defense put up 22 points, which they put up 15 this week, and was able to steal that comeback. So it's really interesting to see just the different flows and how unpredictable really fantasy football is.
Yeah, it'll be with Rashad Penny being out for the rest of the season. Kenneth Walker, who I regrettably did not draft. I have to make everything about me because I'm a selfish
Yeah,
guy
you're right.
like that. Uh, Great pickup, Kenneth Walker. Kenneth Walker is gonna him and Geno Smith. Who knew that that was gonna be the top fantasy pairing in Seattle? Alvin Kamara came back strong. Javonte Williams was out. It wouldn't be a Pepe Sylvia win without winning a game while a guy on your team is out injured. A beautiful, just classic Pepe Sylvia team squad win. Kyler Murray slid down a little bit short of the goal line, not the goal line, the first down line was 16.2 points. And Darren Waller got hurt in that game, right? That's why he didn't play. I watched that whole game, but Darren Waller got hurt. That's a tough break, and Rashad Penny another tough break for Wes's team.
Yeah,
But let's. I feel like I don't know. Do you think AJ Dillon is going to be able to put that up? He's looked a lot better than Aaron Jones running the ball, but I don't know how much that's going to translate into fantasy points this year, especially as the Packers are going to rely more and more on Aaron Rodgers to try to single-handedly carry
I
them
completely.
and
Yeah,
single-handedly.
it'll be very interesting to see running back wise where that goes, how it's split up. Because it looks like they're really trying to push for AJ Dillon. It's kind of like the new one, but at the same time, Aaron Rodgers still has burst of great plays. But again, to your point, it's like they're just putting everything on Aaron Rodgers to figure it out. And to his credit, he's done a pretty good job of figuring things out. But I mean, still, it's going to be very interesting to see the Green Bay offense. I feel like there's so much unknown. I really wouldn't trust in too much of anything with them. Um, and then, so that'll be an interesting one. Obviously, Rashad Penny getting hurt. He's got Mark Ingram, who's kind of a stop start depending on what's going on. Devin Duvernay is somebody I really, really like, and I think is high potential because the Baltimore they run him to death. They also pass to him. I mean, Lamar Jackson typically does pass to him. Um, I love that on the bench. And Romeo Dubes, again, that's somebody who it could be okay. I don't know. We'll see. Keenan Allen, once he gets back, Keenan Allen was Wes's first round pick. And so once he comes back into the fold, it'll be interesting to see how things go from there, too. I would doubt that we'll see Curtis Samuel in the start unless it's a weird bye week or something. Um,
Yeah, Keenan Allen's going to be huge to
yeah,
get back.
absolutely. So that'll be interesting to see. Pepe Sylvia has got some just absolute garbage on the bench, which he did just drop Ronald Jones earlier. I don't know why he's been on that team for so long. Sky Moore, I'm kind of like, I don't know about that either. Kenneth Gainwell in a certain situation, I guess, could help out in the flex, and maybe Rex, but I mean, they're not people I really would want to count on by any means. And with Javonte Williams, one of his keepers being out for the year, that needs to go into IR, and we'll kind of see how it goes. This will be a rough week because the Lions have a bye week, so his top two players with Jamal Williams and Amon-Ra St. Brown going to be out. It'll be a very tough week against Kelsey, and I don't know. Kelsey's got a pretty favorable matchup, I would say.
Yeah,
And then
I
moving
agree.
on to the Nightman Cometh versus Official Kitten Mittens. I love this game because, obviously I was down and I needed my kicker to score 13 points, and I have the best kicker in the league, and I will argue that every single time. He is ranked number one for a reason in fantasy football. He puts up 16 points.
Yeah, because Derek Carr
Yeah,
sucks.
honestly, that's exactly why, and I love that. But it was a very interesting game, I feel like, between me and Marshall because, before the kicker even, really before the Monday Night Football game happened, If I would have just started any other quarterback I had Carson Wentz on the bench at the time, other than Russell Wilson, I would have been fine. If I would have started either one of, Brees Hall or really even, yeah, no, if I would have had Brees Hall in there, that would have been a massive upgrade. Gabe Davis blew up. He basically had three catches, but like two of them were massive points. Um,
Yeah, and you know he'll never do that again, especially if you start
oh
him
yeah,
next week.
absolutely not. Like that's one. This is a good time to trade Gabe Davis because somebody would be like, "Oh yeah, that's gonna be a great pick," and then I get something big out of him. Um, but yeah, and it'll be very interesting to kind of see how that goes with the rest of the season with my team on it. But again, the double-headed drag with Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb did great. I mean, together that's 36, 37 points on that. But looking over at Marshall, man, I would not have started Teddy Bridgewater. I feel like there was plenty of other quarterbacks that were on waiver I would have started other than Teddy Bridgewater. And it was obviously really unfortunate. Like what was he like 2 plays in, he got hurt and was knocked out of the game. But I don't know. I would not have put Teddy Bridgewater in a close matchup like this. I would not have tried that. Um,
I don't think Marshall's fallen too far behind or anything. Definitely not, at least at this point in the season. But Marshall is going to sneak up on a lot of people. Dak Prescott coming back is going to be absolutely enormous for Marshall. Chase Edmonds did the classic Dolphins running back. He scores the 18 points or whatever he scored last week. This week it's
yeah,
Raheem Mostert. Next week it'll be Chase Edmonds again. The next week it'll be Mostert. Khalil Herbert did the same exact thing. He's the big new hot tits in fantasy, and he puts up 1 point. DeAndre Hopkins, hopefully he comes back. Hopefully he comes back healthy and like actually when he comes back from his suspension and he plays a lot better. Our favorite guy, Robbie Anderson, is on that bench too. And as far as your team looking forward, what are you thinking about Kareem Hunt in that starting spot? Do you think he's going to stay in that starting spot for you, or do you think Brees Hall has proven himself this week and you're going to be rolling with a triple threat of Chubb, Pierce, and Hall? What are you thinking about your starting
well, I
moving
can't do the
forward?
triple threat because Pierce has got a bye week. But moving forward after that, yeah, I would put Brees Hall in because I mean he's pretty much the clear starter there. He's doing great. It is the Jets, so it can be very hit and miss on stuff. Kareem Hunt is really taking a. I mean, I looked at snap count and it looks really 50% with Nick Chubb, especially this past week. I think Nick Chubb had 52% and he had 48%, but it really kind of depend on the matchup and what's happening. But obviously, if there's a favorable run game for the Jets or Houston, which is so weird because it's like two of the worst teams, possibly. And obviously, though, Travis Etienne did a lot better, and he got the majority of snap counts this week too. So he's someone down the road might be a big snap right there as well. I'm very curious to see, with my plethora of running backs. But going back over to Marshall, one thing though, yeah, Khalil Herbert didn't do well, but it's also he didn't. He only got I think 38% of the snap count this week, as opposed to what he was getting, which was close to 70 to 80% because David Montgomery's back. So I think a large part of it too is Chicago's run game just has a good offensive line, and that run game is there. But I still going forward since David Montgomery's back, is Khalil Herbert still going to do what he's doing? I don't know. It's very doubtful. Chase Edmonds also he had the
Yeah, they're bears. That's gonna be tough to. It's gonna be tough to
but
count on bears to carry you in anything in real life
for
or
snap count,
fantasy.
Chase Edmonds didn't even have the second highest running back. I think Chase Edmonds is he might surprise me and do something, but I think he's slowly, unless there's an injury that comes up, he's going to be kind of pushed towards the back. Because even before this, the last 2 weeks he had a total of less than 50 yards rushing, but he had 3 touchdowns. So it was kind of a red zone kind of player. I really don't have a lot of stock in Chase Edmonds on that at all. But to your point, though, Dak Prescott coming back is going to be huge. DeAndre Hopkins coming back is going to be huge. Um, and Tyler Lockett did great things on there. Hollywood Brown's still steady. Mark Andrews is just very, very, very good to put in there. And Dalvin Cook did Dalvin Cook things. I mean, that was 24 points. That was great. It was very solid. Marshall is by no means down and out, but in my opinion, he has a lot of guys that have high ceiling potential, but they're not a good average team. It's kind of just like Buster Boom kind of team, if that makes sense.
Yeah, once he gets Dak Prescott, it'll see. It'll be interesting to see what he does and if he drops a couple of these quarterbacks. Having three quarterbacks on your roster and also a guy who's been suspended like the whole year, and then a tight end and Robbie Anderson, it's slim pickings. But I think that Marshall could bounce back and Dak Prescott could put up big numbers. Dak Prescott's a running threat. He's a good passer. As much as I don't like the Cowboys, Dak Prescott is going to greatly enhance Marshall's team. But it'll also be interesting to see what happens with Marquise Brown and DeAndre Hopkins when Hopkins gets back and how that affects where the ball
I
goes
agree.
between them.
And then on to our final matchup of last week. Boyle Denham versus Rickety Cricket, the Newlywed Bowl. And this was really, really fun to see because just how the last game, the Monday night football game, came down to where, is it going to be Devontae Adams? Is it going to be Travis Kelce? And Devontae Adams, Travis Kelce. And of course, this.
Yeah, two of our best players were going at it, and I was getting really hyped into it. And Devontae Adams had only 3 catches, but two of them were for touchdowns, and he drew a lot of pass interference flags. And it still didn't matter because Travis Kelce is the best tight end in the league. He's been for the past 5 years, and he might be for the next 5 years. And unless Kyle Pitts has a really big turnaround, I think that you can count on number 87 just kicking ass and being one of the only, maybe along with Mark Andrews, at least for a couple years, one of the only tight ends that's worth giving a damn about and not just going week to week on. I want to say that I drafted Naheem Hines exactly for this kind of game, a Thursday night game. Jonathan Taylor's out. He gets the ball the first 3 plays. I'm like, I'm a freaking genius. He gets up after that third play and he just stumbles down and I go, okay, he two-wood versus the Bills. He's out. He's going to be out. And all that waiting, all those weeks of just waiting for the Naheem Hines start, and he's out in 3 plays. 3 plays where he got the ball, but he was out in 3 plays. I'm joining Kelsey's injury bug with James Conner getting hurt again this week. I think Kelsey has the most hilarious injury luck in the league so far with all the different running backs she's lost so far, but she still got that
Yeah,
win.
and I mean, something too, talking about Kelsey's team on there. She started off 0-3. There's 2 straight wins. She's up against Pepe Silvia's picks, which she's definitely favored to win on that. Um, she's got David Montgomery back. James Conner is hurt, but I mean, I think how many more weeks till Elijah Mitchell comes back? And then you've got Mike Boone, who did solid, and Melvin Gordon did solid. So there's some flexibility right there for sure. DJ Moore, I will have more faith in now because Baker Mayfield's not there anymore. So I think that would be an interesting pick. Well, he's not
He's
in there
not?
for the next 4 weeks, 3 4 weeks. He
What
got hurt
happened?
with his ankle. He rolled
I
his
to-
ankle. Yeah.
totally missed it. Panthers. I mean, Baker Mayfield maybe may as well be Chuba Hubbard to me
He's
right now.
not good. Like I keep saying it, and I feel like it's not. It's getting there. I think this is going to be the last year he's a starter. He's going to end up being a backup quarterback, but he's just not good. And yeah, I mean, there's some flexibility on the bench there for sure. But Jalen Waddle didn't perform. Alan Lazard did better. Obviously, Travis Kelce was leading that. Dolphins with -1 against the Jets too. So I mean, that was a pretty safe bet on her part. And Tom Brady finally did pretty reasonable numbers on there. Going to you though, that Naheem Hines, that was a really really sad spot right there. It was a very smart, very intelligent thing to do, and it was like shit. Um,
Yeah, another smart move by me was picking up a Minnesota Vikings kicker, and he missed 2 50-yard field goals. So that was a nice 10 point swing uh, both ways as well. So that was really nice for me to have. Devontae Smith kept up some production with 8.7 points. And Derrick Henry has been King Henry the past few weeks. Justin Herbert, I am waiting just like Wes to get Keenan Allen back. That is what I want. I want those ribs to heal up or whatever the hell Justin Herbert or whatever his name was. Um, Whatever he hurt. I'm waiting for him to get back his ribs and his ability to throw properly and to get Keenan Allen back. And Najee Harris is the bane of my existence right now. He was the apple of my eye, and now I hate him. And not as much as Derek Carr, though. And Amari Cooper, I think, is going to be sliding into a starting role for me moving forward, along with hopefully Brian Robinson. I picked him up off the waivers a few weeks ago, and he is back quicker than anybody
yeah, I
expected.
think Brian Robinson's going to be a key pickup there. Najee Harris is obviously really, really sad to see what he's been doing. I still would like. I mean, if I had him or something like that, if it was available, I think that's a sleeper pick for when things get better, in my opinion. But obviously, right now, when you need wins, it's incredibly frustrating. Um, but again, Derrick Henry's doing solid stuff. Amari Cooper did well. Michael Carter had those 2 touchdowns, which really is the bulk of what he had there. And I'd be curious to see if Michael Carter can still do that. Amari Cooper has pretty much shown that he is decently reliable. I think he is he's the 18th ranked person in his position. I think he is decently reliable, and that's really cool to see as a Browns fan that there's at least a receiver that's decently reliable. And David Njoku is about to set some franchise records. I probably this week or next. So that's a cool thing to see as well. But no, this is interesting. I mean, Kelsey coming back to those 2 wins. I think you're on a 2-game slide right now with some stuff going on your team. This is going to be a rough week for you to come through, but there's still a lot of potential, and that really goes into the full picture of it. We just wrapped up conference play, and half the division is 2-3, or half the league is 2-3, I should say, which really just goes to show that everything's just still wide open and it's so early. And I know we have 4-1 teams, but I mean, you look at playoff percentage wise, and everybody's still right around there, still competitive. Besides Thomas at 5%, but it's going to be rough on it. But it's very interesting to see how this is all going to show, because now we're switching up. You play everybody in the opposite conference, and I
Do the conferences even do the conferences even matter in the playoff rankings? I feel like we go through this every year. We see I don't think, because I think we thought one year that I may have made the playoffs because we didn't remember that I may have made the playoffs because I was a certain rank or whatever in the conference when it showed it on the app. But I don't think the conferences mean anything. I kind of wish they did, but I don't think they mean anything. I still have pride in my Western
No,
Conference
it's more
though.
just kind of seeing like how kind of the shuffle is. But no, for playoff sakes, no, it's whatever the record is, and then if it's tied, it's points for. But more just kind of interested to see how everyone kind of plays with each other on that. Because, for example, I believe you play the first. So, for example, I play Thomas, Jack, and Kelsey twice, and this is the first go through of the playthroughs that I'm doing with them. So I believe it's Thomas, Jack, and then Kelsey. But I'll play them right after I go through the entire West Division. I'll play them again right on top of it. So it's kind of interesting just to see, because this is the only time you really play against your own division. So for you, if you're actually in the West, you play the East more than you play your own conference, which doesn't make sense to me. But it's kind of interesting to see, because these are games that you don't see again. You're not going to, matchups you don't have again. Like, this is it. And just to see how the success rate of everybody is with it. But no, and that's something too, is you look at points for on that. Jack has 467, and you look at what you have, 450. So I mean, you see that, and you can easily tell, like, oh well, if there was a different schedule, possibly could I be 4-1 instead of 2-3? And you look at mine, I have 506 points for, and the money team, Tyler, has 491. So again, going back to it, like, oh, if there was a different, points against, Tyler only has 405, and I have 480. I have more. I have the second highest points against, up against Wes. But I mean, like, that's nuts. But moving forward from that, and this is kind of an interesting thing. So it's 5 weeks in, and it's always interesting to see on who drafted who and when, and how draft picks have really carried out. So with the number 1 pick, we had Thomas, who picked up Cam Akers, who has been a bust. I mean, just has not done well. There's potential for it to still get better, but still has just been a bust all in all. And then with the second pick, I got CD Lamb, who's been steady. Of course, the quarterback has been rough. Marshall picked up Mark Andrews. Great pick. He's done excellent. With the fourth pick, it was Dan's, who got traded to Jack, who then got traded to me. I picked up Brees Hall, who is starting to do really, really well. Kelsey picked up DJ Moore, who I would consider right now as a bust. I would not be too happy with that. Uh,
Yeah, especially consider how highly he was ranked before the season as
yeah,
far as
yeah,
wide receivers go.
absolutely. And then this is a funny one. Tyler picked James Cook, who is not rostered. Um, Michael picked up AJ Brown, which was a very solid pick, and I remember being like, AJ Brown, very solid pick, very good job on that.
AJ Brown's better than
Yeah,
I could have imagined. He's obviously not at 04 TO levels, but the first couple of weeks of hype was, I'd say, 70% of that magical season where we got that new wide receiver and we went on an awesome run. Just
yeah, and then
great
he
times.
honestly was probably the best
And
receiver. Going into it, it looked like CD Lamb was probably the best receiver available. But after 5 weeks, I would have said AJ Brown would have been the top receiver pick for that. After that, it was William or it was William, but then I had his pick. He traded it to me, and I picked up Mike Evans, who's done steady. Then Jack picked up J.K. Dobbins, who was done. He was hurt, but now he's starting to really pick up. He's doing a lot better. I like that pick. It would have been JJ that was traded to me, and I picked up ETN, who is doing a lot better. Wes picked up Keenan Allen, who's been hurt the entire season, I feel like. And then Josh picked up Michael Pittman, who's been hit and miss too because of the Colts are being the Colts. So some interesting picks right in there. The only one who's still not the only one who isn't rostered anymore is James Cook. But it's kind of interesting to see like how week one, how that went, or how the first 5 weeks, the first round, how that went. Now the second round is a lot more interesting. So Josh had it. He picked up George Kittle, who didn't play the first 3 weeks, I think, with an injury. So
Yeah, he was. Yeah, it came up to almost game time, I think, every week, and he
yeah,
was
and then
out every
then
time.
afterwards, West picked up Darren Waller. I know 2 tight ends in a row, who's done decently well. Of course, this past week he kind of laid a nice goose egg and cost West. JJ picked up Mike Williams. It's been well. Jack picked up Terry McLaurin. Well, William picked up Cortland Sutton. Decent. Michael was another Eagles player with the Dallas Goddard. And Goddard. And Tyler picked up Aaron Rodgers, who was dropped, and then I've picked him up, which is funny. Kelsey picked up Jalen Waddle.
Yeah, back-to-back MVP keeps floating along in
Yeah,
fantasy like a
exactly.
veteran journeyman.
It would have been with what would have been your pick. I picked Damian Pierce, who's done excellent. Marshall picked up Hollywood Brown, which is solid, and then I picked up Deontay Johnson, which was not been a good pick. The Steelers have been just absolutely awful, but still rostered. And then Thomas picked up Juju Smith-Schuster. And then now going into this fun third round, I know, right? Thomas, the first 2 picks, Cam Akers and Juju, not good, not.
That's tough.
Uh,
That's tough. Number three was Mac
the
Jones, wasn't
third
it?
round, actually, I have his third round pick. It was the fourth round pick that he picked him. But basically his third pick, but the fourth round. But with his pick, actually, I picked up Gabe Davis, which is good. Then I picked up Dalton Schultz with my pick, which he has just not done anything. Marshall picked up Devin Singletary. You picked Justin Herbert. Should have picked Jalen Hurts. Kelsey picked up Brady. Tyler picked up Raheem Mostert, which is doing good. Michael picked up Brandon Cooks. Billy picked up Amon-Ra St. Brown. I got Russell Wilson, which has been terrible. And then TJ Hawkinson from JJ, AJ Dillon from Wes, and then Allen Robinson from Josh. Which, I mean, all 3 of those, all things considered, okay. I think by far right now at this point, Thomas had the worst draft class that you could possibly imagine. But after first 3 picks, Tyler probably had the second worst draft class, and he's 4-1. And I think that really just goes to how impressive Tyler has been so far with this. Because,
Gritty
yeah, he
startup. He's a
inherited
gritty
keepers,
startup.
and then he didn't have a good draft, and he's still doing well. He's still looking like he's going to make the playoffs. Um,
And how many keepers did Jack have? And one of them was a kicker, and he's killing it this
he
year too.
traded me
He's
his
four and
first
one.
round pick, and I gave him 2 keepers. So he's up 4 over that. So I mean,
Oh,
that's
right,
something
right,
too.
right.
That's good.
Still kept the goat
Still
though.
kept
Still kept the goat kicker. Percentage wise,
it still kept that goat,
huh?
but pretty interesting with that.
Yeah.
And I'll do this fourth round, and then I'll leave it to bed for right now, just because it's a lot of me rambling on. I'm sure. Josh picked up Jalen Hurts, which has turned out probably the best pick in the fourth round right there. Wes picked up Damian Harris, which is a great pick. James Robinson by JJ, which is a great pick. Jack did Joe Burrow, which is steady. William did Darnell Mooney, which Michael picked up Chris Godwin, who I feel like he's just been hurt constantly. Tyler picked up.
He'll have a couple big
Yeah, I'm
games
sure.
towards the end of the year. I feel like he'll get a couple touchdown games once he's healthy. Brady
Right.
likes feeding his
Kelsey
veterans.
picked up Lazard. Dan picked up Adam Thielen. Marshall picked up Matthew Stafford. I picked up Chase Edmonds, who I've already traded away. And Thomas picked up Mac Jones on that. One thing, too, if I actually just had my picks for the draft, God, I suck. If it wasn't for the fact that I invested and tried to get all these other people's draft picks, I really did not do a great job with a lot of different stuff on there. I mean, obviously, I hoarded as many rookie running backs as I could because of how many picks I had, but no, not a great job by tall standards for sure. But no, I mean, kudos to Tyler on that. He's been doing great. Kelsey sitting at 3-3 right now, or 2-3 right now. I guess I'm already giving her a win. I think she's going to pick up a win this week. That's going to give her to 3-3, back to 500 with a hurt roster. I think that's huge. And so that's something I'm really looking forward to seeing how that shakes out as well. Looking at you against Wes, it looks like Wes will probably get back up to 3-3. Just this is a rough week for you. But JJ and Tyler are up against each other this week, and that will be very, very interesting to see because right now the projected is both at 99. that's a very, very interesting matchup. That's a good. You're playing the different conference. Good matchup, I feel like. What sucks though for Josh is he's playing Team Philly Special. Um, I think that might be his fourth loss in a row that's going to come this week. Very, very possible. It's just going to be very interesting to see how that all shakes out. You got Rickety Cricket versus Pepe Sylvia on there, which again I think Kelsey's got, and then of course Boyce Hull up against Official Kit Mittens, and that could go so many different directions. So it's going to be very, very interesting time to see how everything works in fantasy football and how these weeks go and who ends up shaking up where. And I mean, everybody's still really got a good chance across the board, don't you think?
Oh yeah, I think so. I think we got the couple teams at the top who are killing it. We have the disruptors, and then we have the slop, which includes you, me, and Kelsey, where we just kind of hover around 500, and every week we think we're going to do a little better, and we just underperform. Some weeks we score 120, the next week we'll score 70. I'll lose with 80 points, and I'll win with 70. So I'm really excited to end up right in there with everybody else, ending up 500, while the big boys, Tyler and JJ and Wes and Michael, they all battle for
Battle
the
for the
crown.
crown on it. Yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting to see. And real quick before we head on out on this one, I know you've talked about some trades and talked about some stuff that you've looked at kind of moving and things like that. Is Najee Harris still somebody that you're looking at trying to, to trade up with, or what are you thinking on it?
I totally want to trade Najee Harris, but I'm also not selling my team yet. I think that once Justin Herbert gets a little healthier, and if something, maybe just one, the Steelers might end up being the
Yeah.
worst team in the NFL this season. And I invested so much into my four keepers that that maybe I'm just too far gone. But if Brian Robinson can step up and fill that hole until Najee Harris is ready, then I think with if Devontae Smith can keep his performance up and Amari Cooper can keep going, I'm still not giving up on the season yet, especially given the fact that anything can happen and fantasy is a complete wash. You know, there's a certain amount of skill and preparation and all those other things, but in the end, it's total dumb luck, and anybody can win at any time. And I'm not ready to throw away the season yet, especially since I just don't find I don't see any offers out there that I'm really interested in. Not that anybody's making me any offers, but I also don't see anybody that I'm particularly interested in. I think possibly just sitting on him and rolling him over into next year
I
may
can
end
see
up
that
being my
too, and
best
it's
bet.
also interesting to see. You said I'm not ready to sell off the team. I'm not ready for this. I totally agree because last year when I started to essentially just auction off people on my team because I was like, yeah, it's hopeless. It was week 8 and I was 2-6, and I think that's pretty comfortable to say when you're 2-6 that the playoffs are not in reach. But really interesting to see is when that call is, and of
Yeah.
course it's later on down the road. And of course, it's perfect when you're 2-6, and there's a couple teams that are around 500 who think they might still have a chance, who think that things might get a little bit better, and those are your prime suspects that you really want to go for and look at. But and that's just a key thing of when you do that because again, the big part of it is you can get all these draft picks, but if you get all these draft picks, the whole point of having all these draft picks is to be able to hoard in some keepers so that you can have a good team when you have a decent draft so that you can win the championship. Because let's face it, it's great if you can make the playoffs, but you still have a bunch of people hurt, not good, this, that, and the other. It's pointless to, oh, well, I was 8-6, but I'm barely there, and there's, of course, a couple of teams that are easily going to win. Um, I think it's interesting to see with the balance of when you let somebody go or when you start trading people off, who you decide to trade off, who you decide to keep, and finding people who would want your players on that too. That's something that's going to be important because obviously, if you're looking to hypothetically, if things don't go your way, and you decide to look at who you're going to send Najee Harris to, you have to find somebody who is in need of that. And right now, the teams that I would be looking at who would be possibly there would be somebody like Josh, possibly for sure. Rickety Cricket obviously is always injured and out. Thomas, of course. But honestly, a good trade partner and a good interesting thing might be William. I really think that would be an interesting area because he doesn't have a lot in running back depth at the moment, and especially with Javante being out for the season. He needs some depth in running back and receiver. I think that would be an interesting trade partner to look at. Um, yeah, I mean, I think that's definitely an avenue maybe to look at as well.
Is there anybody you're looking to trade on your team, or are there any
I don't know.
targets you want to
Honestly,
make
at
pleas
this point
to?
right now, I think I'm pretty confident.
Your team is looking real good. Just the names on your roster are just, they're really jumping out
Yeah.
in your starting lineup to me right now. Nick Chubb, Brees Hall, CeeDee Lamb, Mike Evans. Your tight end shit, but everybody's tight end
Yeah,
shit
and he's
besides Kelsey
he's
and
ranked seventh
Andrews.
in his position.
And yeah,
But here's the
tight
funny
end
part though
rankings
about
mean
Gerald
nothing.
Everett on that as well. Um, I picked him up after he had 10 targets because I was like, oh, that's huge. And I started him and he had like 2.5 points. The next week he actually had a touchdown, and so he had like 12 points. But yeah, he's been a total bust. And then of course I had Dalton Schultz, which is a bust. Um, yeah, honestly, no. I've got pretty good wide receiver depth. I've got an immaculate running back depth. My quarterback sucks. Um, but I mean, no, I feel pretty confident with this team because trust me, you know me, I love trades. I love to like workshop stuff around. Um, and sometimes I'll have a player that I want to pick up somebody off waiver, but I don't necessarily want to drop this player for someone else to get him. So I'll find a trade partner that I don't think is going to be successful and make sure that person goes on their team to be like, okay, here we go. And I won't lie to you, like that was a big thing I did with Chase Edmonds. Is I was like, who's got a quarterback that I need? Cool, Marshall does. All right, I don't want to drop Chase Edmonds and someone like West pick him up. So it's like, all right, well, I'm going to send him to Marshall because I think he'll do the least amount of damage to me there. And of course, I play Marshall and he puts up what 0.1 or something like that, or 1 point. So that worked out nicely. But then again, you look over at someone like Jack, who's got Hilaire, who was killing it in the first 4 weeks, and Pollard, who's doing great, and it's like, maybe that's gonna bite me in the ass later. But it's gonna be interesting to see on that one. I think I'm good on there. Tyler's gonna need to make some trades. I think Tyler at some point is gonna need to start looking, kind of shopping herself around. He might be able to just waiver wire pick up and do okay, but his running back depth could be in question with oh shoot, what's his name? The Washington court, Antonio Gibson going to second string, I guess you would call. But and I don't know how much faith.
Yeah, and Brian Robinson with a strong three
Hey,
yards after 1 quarter right now. It's not after 1 quarter, but yeah, a nice point 3
could
points
be
from
worse.
Brian Robinson right now. A real nice shot in the arm for the Commanders. I know he was shot in the leg, but
I
the
mean,
main
like
part of the joke
as
was
long
that
as
he was
everyone
shot.
understands that he was shot. Um, with a gun. It
Yeah,
happened. It
with a
happened.
gun.
But yeah, man, it's going to be very interesting to see. To your point with Najee Harris, if you can't find a trade partner with him, I think it'd be interesting to keep him to kind of see how it goes. Um, but I'd be interested to see how everything kind of shakes out with going into next year. I love that I have the whole everybody's draft and everybody like who drafted when and where. Be able to kind of compare it next year or a year after, and we sit there and see that some picks were picked here or there. If someone had a good keeper and where they were able to be kept at. But
Your four keepers right now are Chubb Hall,
not Hunt. I
Pearson,
think I
Hunt.
would rather have CeeDee Lamb than Hunt. Yeah, honestly. Yeah, and the thing is
Interesting.
Hunt will
It'll be
probably not be with
interesting.
the Browns next year. After this year, I don't think he's with the Browns. I think his contract ends this year. Uh, I think it
I
will in
almost feel
some
like
ways.
that'll
At the
make him
same time,
better.
too, you know how I am with like, oh, he's getting old. He's been in the NFL for 6, 7 years. I'd rather keep. I mean, I might, I might keep him, but at the same time, if I do that, I don't know. If I do that, then I would just have to draft wide receivers the first 3 or 4 rounds because right now the only extra pick I have is a second rounder. But that might not be a bad idea because damn sure not going to keep a quarterback or a tight end. So I might do that honestly, or I even
Yeah. The only two quarterbacks I can think of keeping right now are Josh Allen, who is going to be the MVP of the league and of fantasy football, and uh,
and I
and
just wouldn't
Jalen
do
Hurts
Hurts
maybe.
because of how much he runs and stuff. I worry about injury on him. I would definitely do Josh Allen, but yeah,
I feel like Jalen Hurts is. I may come back to regret this, but I feel like Jalen Hurts is a safe runner. I don't think he's like a Cam Newton always putting his body on the line. He's not a physical runner. He's not Michael Vick, where Michael Vick would always take reckless chances with his body. I think Jalen Hurts is a pretty good at protecting himself with how much he runs. But I mean, who knows? When you run in the
yeah,
NFL, you can still get in trouble. Or if you're Tom Brady, you're gonna those
I
penalties
just
on
think
him.
it's
I don't even know where I was going with that because Tom Brady did get
yeah.
destroyed his
I
ACL
think
in
it's funny that he had that
2008,
big
but
20-yard rush the
whatever.
other week, and then it was a flag, and it came back, and he like broke his knee brace on the play too, and it was like, oh my god, all that work for nothing, nothing because there was a penalty. But honestly, too, another sneaker for my keepers could be Travis Etienne on that because I think he's got potential to slowly start building and being better. So I mean, yeah, it's definitely a possibility. But one thing I think we can both agree on, and I think everyone can agree on, is there's such a lack of depth in running back that's definitely the position where if you're going to have keepers that they're probably going to be the ones you go for. And again, last year it was really nice to be able to have a lot of good quarterback play, and so because of that, you had a lot of good receivers that were doing great points. But this year, you've just had shit quarterback play. Let's just be honest with you. You have people like Cooper Rush who are starting, who I know he's won every game, but he's not somebody. He's not a franchise quarterback. You have like Jacoby Brissett. You've got some guy named Zappy. You've got whoever the Dolphins had to start. Some Thompson kid. Who knows? He was some rookie. I mean, you've had just so many random people. Andy Dalton coming back into the fold. Just so many random people starting this year that I think it's hurt a lot of the receiver position. And I'll be interested to see as some people get healthier and they come back how things change up. But it's definitely been a unique, but definitely a very heavy running back season so far. Don't you think?
Yeah, I think so. It's not having consistent running backs. It's really been hurting me. Najee Harris, Najee Harris. I was so excited about Najee Harris. I when he jumped over that guy in the preseason, not like I was paying attention to it very much at all. He jumped over that guy, and I was like, "Oh my God, I'm gonna have the two sickest running backs in
To be fair, I
fantasy."
thought
And
you
then
were
I just
easily
don't.
like. I remember when I saw everything, I was like, "Oh man, he's got some of the best keepers. He's loaded. It's going to be great." And that's another great thing of just fantasy football because you never know. Like you think everything's going to be okay. You think like, "Oh, I've been really strategical and I've thought this out," and then just some bullshit happens. And like that's part of the fun of it is just how much bullshit happens that you're just like, this is not fair. Like I put thought into it, I put strategy into it, and I get nothing in return.
The one thing I think though is that Saquon Barkley is going to be a beast this
And I could
year, and
definitely
then he's going to get hurt next year. I don't know why I don't know why I'm like casting that out into the universe, but like I can just see Saquon Barkley this being like his last great year, and I don't have any evidence for that. Um, Especially with his reputation as like a workout warrior, I'm sure he'll do whatever it takes to keep himself healthy. But I don't know, just scrolling back and forth on some of these big name fantasy running backs, like Aaron Jones is clearly on the downside of his career, and I don't even. It kind of makes me think about at the end of this season whether he'd even be worth keeping, even though he's traditionally for the past 5+ years
yeah,
he would
it's
definitely be
not
a keeper,
2019
especially in this
anymore,
league.
and he is not who he used to be, but for sure. And speaking of running backs that are on the up and up, Kenneth Walker, that was somebody who I'd looked at in the preseason, and I saw these great things about him. And then right before the draft, it was like, oh, there's some injuries. Oh, there might be, it might be some time before he can play. And I remember when the draft was going on, being like, oh, there's Kenneth Walker, and then I was like, I've picked up like so many rookie running backs. Like I probably need to look at wide receiver and stop just being weird and hoarding rookie running backs. And of course, first few weeks that really screwed me because I really just it took some time I think for them to really kind of get out of their shell. And it could be that they just had 2 or 3 good weeks and they're go right back to sucking. But it'll be interesting to kind of see. And that's something too is like we're starting to see a little bit more of the injury bug, but in a couple of weeks somebody could be hurt, they'd be out for the season, and that just completely destroys a team. So I, I don't know. It's one of those love hate relationships with fantasy football and seeing what happens, who goes where, and how it all shakes out.
As soon as you focus on building the team and trying to win that
Yeah,
week, like I drafted Rashad White, thinking the Buccaneers are going to be a competitive team. They're always up and down. Leonard Fournette always shows up in the playoffs, and he has a lot of big weeks, week to week. But there are games where Ronald Jones gets touches, and who knows if somebody goes down with an injury, Rashad White could jump right in there and get points. But then 2 3 weeks into the season, I'm thinking I'm wasting a spot on the bench and I don't have consistent starters throughout to carry me. So maybe I need to drop this rookie running back. And then I tried to make up for it with Brian Robinson. And it's just fascinating the difference between wanting to compete in the
longevity.
moment and then trying to, yeah, prepare for the future, especially with four keepers. I don't know. I know I think I voted for four keepers, and I think it makes our league pretty interesting.
I think
but
you're just making
four
excuses
keepers
for
to me is
sucking.
just
I'm just gonna be honest with you on it. Like, I know you've talked about it before, but I think a lot of the stuff is still gonna be the same. I think Thomas is still gonna be at the bottom of the barrel on it. I just think
I'm no, I'm not complaining about it. I just think that as certain teams get better and worse, I just wonder if that'll end up hurting the competitiveness of the league, or maybe I just suck ass and we need Najee
yeah,
Harris
no.
to
If you were
actually start
winning,
getting
you'd be
some
like, oh
fucking
yeah, no,
points
this is
here.
good, we're doing great. But because you're struggling, it's like, no, four keepers. But
Yeah,
no,
no
I
shit.
think four keepers is fine. I've been in other leagues where we have 3 and 4, and it's not that bad. So I mean, it's it's all about strategy.
Justin Herbert's killing me too. Justin Herbert's killing me too. I should have drafted Jalen Hurts. If I had drafted Jalen Hurts, I'd
Well, no,
I'd probably be
that,
4-1
if
right now
you had a different
instead of
schedule, you'd be
having
four and
broken
one. If you
ribs
had Jack's
Herbert.
schedule, you'd be 4-1 right now. And so that's why it's so like frustrating too, because it's like I could have had this schedule and I'd had a different record and everything would have been fine. But it's like, damn. And if you look at it too, for our free agency, like who's available running back wise right now, like there's nothing there. It's hard. Like Jalen Warren, James Cook, first round pick James Cook, Caleb Huntley, Dontrell Hilliard. I mean, there's some stuff there, but I mean, it's just there's nothing that's just helpful in any way. I feel like it's very interesting to see everything that's available on there, and then wide receiver, it gets a little bit better, but not much, and then of course tight end, that's just such a shit show on that too. It's very interesting to be able to see because of there not being a lot of waiver pickups and such. Um, how that's really going to go going throughout the season when you have bye weeks and everything like that, because you're already starting to see like Hunter Renfro got dropped because it's a bye week, and Jack needs some players to win this week instead of longevity wise, like we were just talking about. Um, who gets Hunter Renfro? How that turns out? What happens with him? Um, and there's still some people that can pop out because like we talked about, the season's still early, but I'm very.
I can't pick up Hunter Renfro right now, can I?
You have to go through
Or do I
waivers,
have to
but I
go
mean,
through? He
you
has
can
to go
put in
through
a waiver
waivers.
claim for him. Which let's see where that is.
Because I picked up Odell
Yeah, and I think that's a
during this
smart pick right
podcast.
there because I think there's definitely because when does he come back? 6, 7,
A chance.
right?
He
But
hasn't signed with anybody.
right, but like when is
He's
he
not
healthy to
signed.
be able to come back though?
Oh, I have no idea. I've just been hearing some chatter about him negotiating with the Rams, and after this loss to the Cowboys, I feel like the Rams are going to start to get desperate, and maybe they cave in, and there's a whole love fest, and I can squeak out a couple weeks with him
Yeah,
in my
and
flex.
that's something too is he's going to sign somewhere. That's definitely going to happen, and it'll be interesting to see because that's somebody who last year, when he moved off from the Browns and he went straight over to L.A., he did excellent. I mean, he did really really well. So that's another fun matchup to see how that works out. But I think that just about wraps it up for week 5 on us and what players you should look at, how everyone did, how everything went down. And again, next week we'll have Tyler Holliday on here, the money team, and we'll see what happens after that big showdown with JJ and how that all hands out. But it'll be a very interesting week because we'll kind of see who's going to be doing a little bit better, who's going to be having to fight to get a little bit more wins to be able to balance everything out. Who looks like they're going to be the top 6, who's looking at like the bottom 6. Who, if you're in the bottom 6, what are you trying to sell and get rid of to try to, invest into the future, as we say, I guess. But no, it's going to be a very exciting.
And will anyone trade draft picks? Will the draft picks flow once again like they did last year, or is everyone going to
I
be
think there's going to be a
hesitant
lot of instant
about
draft
trading
picks,
draft
and
picks?
I think almost nobody's going to want to trade a first round this year. And I think that second rounders and third rounders are probably what's going to be dealt the most this year. For whatever reason, I think second, third rounders are what's going to be dealt the most, which is fair, I think.
No, I agree with you. I think it'll be fascinating. I after missing out on the first 2 rounds of the draft this year, it really just pains me to see that if one of your 4 keepers goes down, like, or goes in a way that you don't want to, and you don't have those 2 other picks, after that, it's almost
I
like
agree,
the
but also
waiver
you could be
wire
someone like
already.
Tyler who drops his first 2 round picks and still is 4-1 and just killing it. So it's all about matchups, and it's so just like frustrating.
He may be stealing some of Marshall's black magic there with Marshall's ability to to like have guys on the team who are like, there's no way this guy is
Yeah,
gonna score
yeah. I
25
feel like
points.
it
He scored
routinely
25
happens,
points.
and I feel like there's guys who like me and you, who are constantly studying the shit and looking at everything, and then you have someone like Marshall who's just like, yeah, I'll start him this week, and blows up and wins, and you're like, what? No.
We'll see. We'll see if Marshall agrees with that assessment, but I think that'd be a win,
Yeah,
seeing as that we're
no, it's definitely a
55
win for
minutes
this
in.
week. But on to next week. Good luck to everybody, and everything goes. We'll see you back here in the party mansion once again.
Thomas drop Chuba Hubbard
Derek Carr,
and
you suck
Derek
ass.
Carr, you
We're
suck
out.
ass.